My third guy plays some games. Alright, hi everybody, Weather Guy here, and it is time to get into the trial of the great departed soul in Ace Attorney Chronicles. Hope you're doing great. I'm feeling pretty good, not too bad. Excited to finally be digging into this trial because the investigation phase was quite lengthy. Here we go. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court. Now here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Oh gosh. Mr. God, what was his voice again? Good morning, Professor Hairbrain.
I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. Never felt anything like it. It's crushing me.
And as a former weather guy, I know a lot about atmospheric pressure, right? Feel it every time I'm here, that gravity. Better make like Alphabet and defy some gravity, am I right, guys? It's a very specific reference.
Well, this is Britain's highest court. What are you telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control the air pressure?
Oh no. I think it's probably all in the mind.
Oh, yes, well, you won't let me down, will you? Mr. Ryu? I'm counting on you in today's trial. You saved my life. You saved the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public.
Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident. That's gonna be really tough, and I feel like it's not gonna be an accident, whatever it is, right?
Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about really. Justice will prevail.
This is gonna be Gregson. No. Mr. Sholmes, I didn't expect to see you here.
That was very mean, Reno, leaving me alone at home with Hurley. Took me at least an hour to wake him. Is it, are you Sherlock Holmes?
Indeed, sir, I am he. Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, I've heard all about your exploits, even worse living in Germany.
I guess France Magazine is on sale in Germany too.
This month's installment was sublime. Your introduction in the adventure of Silver Blaze was wonderful.
Ah, yes, a memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall. No, that was the Speckled Band. Yep. Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Oh, I have urgent business at Madame Tuspel's. You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that connects with this, right? If it does at all. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Oh, well, never mind then. I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, and resolving the matter will be as easy as proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description. Poor guy's broke out of his mind. Oh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley. Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know. Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for a pie. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say.
Oh yes, quite definitely, absolutely, I totally understand.
Is someone a little starstruck? Oh boy. I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Hairbrain.
Well, thank you.
Before I depart, Mr. Ryu, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? Music quieting, of course. As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was. I've read Professor Bunnybane's paper about it too, Bruno, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree? How can an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding in fact succeed? That's contradictory. Yeah. And it's that contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial, I have no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now, I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow. See you later, Hurley. Fantastic. Is it trial time now? Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Bruno. But chin up, you can do it. Oh, what about you, Iris? No, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do. I see, she's probably going to go check out the exhibition more. Yeah, it's going to be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is. That sounds ominous. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Make your way into the courtroom at once. Alright. So, now we have to meet our lovely prosecutor, Von Zeeks. And we have to see our lovely judge. And who our witnesses are going to be. And who the jurors are going to be. Always excited to get into that. An experiment that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Ryu. That's the key to this case. Alright. Well, let's see. 23rd October, 9:10 a.m. The Old Bailey.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session.
Let me just, before we start, let me look at our court record again. We have a piece of green cloth. Canvas-like material backed with rubber. I feel like that's got to be a part of a balloon. Experiment sketch showing it pointed at the tower. Serious contraption that looks sort of like a crossbow thing. Newspaper. Which has the Reaper attack stuff on the back. And then, of course, our lovely armband from Kazuma. Okay.
We are sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Harebrain. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed.
The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. I'm 6 months out of practice, and what's more, yeah, no Sasato. I'm without Sasato today. All on our own, sad. Is it just my imagination, or does the air in here feel even more oppressive than usual?
So, I must say I recollect the victim of this case all too well, Mr. Odie Asman.
Mr. Asman was well known as a financier, though that was merely a front for his diverse criminal activities.
It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court prosecuted by you, Lord Van Zeeks. But the jury unanimously found him not guilty.
Because every member of the jury had been bribed by the sound of it. These powerful London criminals are prepared to go to extreme lengths to keep their freedom.
But 2 days ago, on 21st October, Mr. Asman met his end. The work of the Reaper, was it?
If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution. But the fact remains that Mr. Asman's death was a direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Harebrain.
Very well then. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people. Are the 6 of you ready to fulfill your societal duty?
New guy. I'm most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord. To have a man's fate in the palm of one's hand? Oh gosh, oh golly. Sends shivers down my spine. Oh, this is weird. These are all rich people. So far. Science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials, all are nothing more than performances.
Any spurious scholar that defies the reputation of science deserves to hang.
Oh, not a rich lady here. We have to listen to what's on the both sides of the fence and then settle on one. That's it, isn't it? This is the guard who is sleeping at Madame Tespel's. Okay. Okay.
Wasn't like this in my day, wasn't like this at all.
Interesting selection of jurors today. I guess it's a different group now because it's been a good period of time since our last trial, maybe. That's the police killer Automo lookalike. Again. And he's as exhausted as ever, it seems.
Now, as I'm sure you are all aware, the incident we are here to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition shortly after its opening.
Though the death toll could have been far worse, with the exception of the victim, no one was killed. Nevertheless, the dream of the science being exhibited rapidly turned into a nightmare for the spectators.
A tragic turn of events, and as such, the eyes of all London, no, of the whole world, will be on this trial. It's our duty to reach a swift and just conclusion, I feel. So, your opening statement, please, Lord Van Zieks.
At the heart of this incident is technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world.
One of science's latest developments, I take it. The government is keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technological advantage.
Technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage instantaneous kinesis.
Good lord.
It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity and beam them instantly to another location where they are subsequently reassembled. Again, this is basically how they described Wonka Vision, right? Except shrinking.
Is such a thing even within the realms of possibility? Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure.
Disassembling people with electricity? My goodness, how shocking.
The whole idea is absurd. The hypothesis would never stand up to scrutiny. Sir, I believe you are a fellow of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field. I am, and my word on the matter can't be considered final. Instantaneous kinesis is poppycock.
So this expert and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible.
What is the prosecution's view on the matter?
The prosecution would assert that the accused's instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success. Ooh. So we have to prove it was a failure, basically, right? That's fun. What? Interesting.
Order, order.
The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, a substantial research grant would be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Asman's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant. That makes sense. That puts a motive in place, at least for our harebrain. Okay. But this disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim. I'm very curious about the rest of Van Ziek's past too, by the way, about what happened with that previous case and the professor character in that case, right?
Thank you, Lord Van Ziek. The prosecution's stance is clear. But you will now bring forth witnesses to substantiate your claims.
Gladly, my lord. Here it comes. That's what we all pay big bucks for, the cape off, baby. Bailiff, show the first witnesses to the stand. Let's see them. Let's see them. Gregson, Standard, and Hairbrand. So no surprises, really. Okay. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. I was on duty at the demonstration on the day in question and in charge of the following investigation. Oh, he is spazzy.
Albert Hayward, scientist.
You were born in England, but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years. Correct.
Yes, that's right. After graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery. Which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis at the Great Exhibition.
What you demonstrated was incredible, alright. An incredible explosion.
But the science was a success. The instantaneous kinesis worked. Everyone saw it must have done. Yes, there was a terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success.
Well, that much is undeniable, as shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it, the centerpiece of the exhibition, no less. That's right, my lord. Seems the victim rammed straight into it. I see. Very well, submit the photograph as evidence. Now, I don't know what I think. I think he was shot by something from the crossbow contraption, you know? As courts heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odie Asman. There have been a number of allegations made against the man, but putting them aside for the time being. He was the man who financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration itself. Let's see, so to summarize the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct? Exactly. Couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction in the apparatus used for the demonstration?
That's right, that must be it. My splendid machine. My poor splendid machine.
You saw yesterday, didn't you? We can't even examine the wreckage thanks to the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
What? The wreckage? The wreckage?
That being the case, how can the facts be established? How can it possibly be determined whether this was an accident or a deliberate and malicious act? Extremely simply, my lord.
I beg your pardon.
Isn't that right, witness?
What? Sorry, me?
No, your neighbor. Yes, sir, it was murder, plain and simple. Anyone can state that with complete certainty. What? How can you possibly think that?
Thank you, Inspector. I think we had better proceed to formal testimony. You will explain to the court on what grounds you claim the experiment to have been a front for murder.
Alright, here we go. It's the bread and butter. It's cross-examination time. A front for murder. Corpse that went crashing through the Crystal Tower had a broken neck.
Oh, I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projection, that's all. That was my mistake.
The post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. There was a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere. This fellow's the only one who could have done it. Okay.
An extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart.
Information I would really like to have heard from someone other than the judge. The coroner says death would have been all but instant from a wound like that. You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused.
No. That couldn't be further from the truth.
I have here the experiment plan document that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the birdcage, ready to be beamed instantly. To the second level of the Crystal Tower, about 25 yards away. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam transmitter to point higher than intended. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in mid-air, from where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the Crystal Tower's large round window. Okay, that's pretty interesting. My word, one assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower then?
I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. The machine was just too powerful. But honestly, really, I swear, it was just an accident, a terrible accident.
Unfortunately, that excuse can't save you. No, not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart.
Murder weapon? What are you saying?
This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it entered into the court record.
Your request is granted, counsel.
Alright, we're going to take a look at that.
I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance. The only other person on the stage with Mr. Asman was that disgraceful excuse for a scientist.
Then really, by all accounts, it must have been him. Hard to think otherwise. Really.
Very well, counsel for the defense. Proceed with the cross-examination, please.
Oh, yes, my lord. I need to focus here. It's been a while. We got this. But before we actually start pressing, we have to look at our new things we got. Our photo. Lovely. Stabbed here. Neck apparently broken, but we can't really tell from this picture. Strapped into the birdcage, and these are the walls of the birdcage, presumably. Glasses on. Yada, yada, yada. Name O.D. Asman, British, 47. Coroner is Courtney Scythe. Courtney Scythe. Hang on. Hang on. I need to do something. I need to look at my YouTube comments real quick. That name is familiar, but I'm not 100% sure. Hang on. Hang on. Almost there. No. Okay. Shin is the name. I was looking up the list of that was made, right? That had like Gregson and Kazuma and Wilson on it. And the last name was Shin. I thought, for some reason in my mind, I was thinking Scythe for a second. Okay. Cause of death: hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by a sharp implement. Additional observations: a broken vertebra, most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height. Alright. All makes sense to me so far.
Hold it!
Are you suggesting that's because he fell from a considerable height? Exactly, which highlights something else about this whole run business. What's that? The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a success. Ah. After the explosion, the cage with the fellow inside suddenly appeared out of nowhere in midair.
So although the experiment ended in disaster, the so-called instantaneous kinesis did actually occur.
Remind us, Professor, what was the cause of the fatal disaster?
Hold it!
So the angle of projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself, personally?
Absolutely. The calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out.
Only you got it wrong, didn't you?
Yes, that's right. That's the point. The calculation is so complicated even I can make a mistake.
People fall for that brazen confidence? I should try it.
I took into account the subject's height and weight, the wind direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable, so I just don't understand how this could have happened.
Obviously, then you had to include the weight of the clothes Mr. Asman was wearing at the time, I suppose.
Franklin Thomas. The answer should have been 3.
So much for safety first. The 3 must be for safety third. Good quip there, Ryu.
Hold it!
Another fatal injury, you say? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't think I'd have to spell this out, but here we go. Just because there were 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean that saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it? 2, right? Obviously, at first we thought the bloke had died due to his spine snapping in half as well. But you're saying that's not the case? You'll get your answer once I finish my fish and chips if you don't keep butting in for every few seconds. We all know that's a bottomless bag. Very true, he's always eating from it, never runs out. The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would be reasonable to assume that as the cause of death. Right, that's what we all thought. But it was a red herring, wasn't it?
Hold it!
The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. The prosecution received this report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. That was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense. Sarcastic and insincere? Thanks. So what was the nature of this sharp object? Among the accused's tools that were in use at the demonstration, one is of particular interest. This. We saw this at some point, but we couldn't take it.
Oh yes, there he is. My trusty little companion, Andrew.
Oh boy, it's playing this guy's crazy music. Right? That's absolutely this guy's loony music. Andrew, of course. We should have known the tool was named Andrew. We should have known.
Do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. I'm named Mine, you know. We're on one big happy family.
Look from the judge there is hilarious. Holy hell.
I use my flathead screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a corpse head.
Well, it would appear that your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. Ah, that isn't... It's blood, beyond all reasonable doubt. No. That's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fellow is completely consistent with the victim's wound.
What? What?
Oh no, we're in terrible shape here.
Order, order. The court will enter this friend of the defendant as evidence.
Alright, now we got it. So one of Professor Harebrain's tools is the murder weapon? Let's take a closer look at it. We don't have anyone to talk with about it. That's so sad. This is blood, Mr. Asman's, no doubt. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. I've seen this unusually shaped handle before. Same screwdriver that was lodged in the grill on the floor of the kinesis machine. Which could be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. Okay. Okay, seemingly nothing else to note here. Great.
Hold it!
What grounds do you have for saying that? Ah, do you really need to ask? There were only 2 people on that public experimentation stage in front of the whole crowd. The victim, Mr. Odiasman, and the accused, Professor Harebrain. And we know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive.
That's right, I saw with my own eyes.
Furthermore, Following the explosion and kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. In other words, only someone else on stage with the victim could possibly have done it.
Excuse me.
See what he has to say about that. Professor Harebrained, do you have some information that may be relevant here? Professor. He's so funny.
Oh, sorry. I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate molecules in the human body.
And the witness stand is the best place for that? It seemed as though you might have something to say about Inspector Gregson's last remark.
Yes, that's right. Of course. He just said nobody else could have done it, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Who else could have stabbed the victim? Huh?
I don't know, but there's no way that I could possibly have stabbed Mr. Asman, as you say.
Huh? Explain, please, Professor.
Of course, just cold-hearted policemen may not be aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals with blood running continuously through their veins.
I had heard.
Then surely, you see, if I'd plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath. No, a blood swimming pool.
Ah.
1,000 of Londoners were watching me at the time. Yet not one can then claim to have seen a swimming pool of blood.
Well, no, I suppose not.
You see, not one. True, I didn't see anything like that.
Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument. Yeah, if there's no blood at the actual where he was supposed to have stabbed him.
Order.
Dude, he definitely got shot like mid-air or something. Pray forgive the discourtesy if I savor a drop from my hallowed chalice to accompany my old friend's adducing. Here's to you, Albert. His name's Andrew. His name was Andrew. Also, Harebrained is also the name. He's talking about Harebrained. Because they were our old friends, that's right.
Oh, you're too kind, Barrick. I'm really not on a patch on you.
Oh no. Psych. No, you're not.
No?
You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility.
I have?
A particular situation in which very little bleeding would result from a stab wound. Of course. Inspector, enlighten the court, please. Yes, sir. Where are they going with this? Very well, you will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. Must have been left in his body, but the weapon was... We're going to press this, but I already know where we're going with this, because we know where the weapon is at. The weapon is at the scene of the crime. It was lodged into the machinery. We just established that a minute ago when we were looking at the screwdriver. So we're good here. But we still have to press just to do it, get all the dialogue. Why would you think that, Inspector? With any wound, it's only when you pull the weapon out that profuse bleeding occurs. Whilst it's still lodged in the body, it acts as a stopper of sorts, for want of a better word. I see. You don't need a medical degree to be aware of this fact. It's common knowledge for any investigator. Where's Sasato when you need her? If you ask me, this bloke masked what he was doing from view with his body before stabbing Asman in the chest. Then he beamed the victim off the stage with his fancy device, the screwdriver still where he planted it.
I would never do such a thing. Not to my precious tools. I would never use them for such dirty work. You only use tools for their intended purpose. That's common knowledge for any scientist.
The fact remains, a lack of blood at the scene can easily be explained, as the prosecution has demonstrated. So that's all the testimony I have to work with. I had no idea the victim had been stabbed. That changes everything. Did Van Zeeks keep that to himself until now on purpose to gain the advantage? Oh well, I suppose all I can do now is press these witnesses for as much new information as possible. You know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. We're hopping to the end and we're presenting the screwdriver.
Objection.
You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal? Look, there's no blood on the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. The only explanation for that is if the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any heavy bleeding. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend, even on your side of the world. Yes, but about the screwdriver... Thing is, we actually saw it at the scene ourselves, on the experimentation stage. What? It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through a metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Oh, well, now you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand that you permitted the defense counsel to investigate? That you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. I was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. The screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it? What are you getting at? This tool had been in the victim's body when the victim was beamed away by the machine. And it shouldn't have still been on the stage. That's right. It should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asman. And been found still lodged in the victim's chest. Great. Killed it. Order. How do you explain this, Inspector? I don't. It looks as though everything that the victim had on this person moved with them when he was beamed. The screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred. Obviously, that should have been beamed to the destination as well. This is a strange situation. Even though people are saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it did actually take place. Yeah, that's a good point. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. My lord, the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument. We can only conclude that the testimony given in support cannot be relied upon. Lord Van Zees is stumped. Is this harebrained? I actually wasn't that far off. You have something to say, witness.
Yes, I knew it. It bears out. The equation told him. Mr. Ryu, don't worry.
About what?
Without delving into details, there is no inconsistency.
What?
Even if Andrew had been lost in Mr. Asman's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Andrew remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations.
Why would you say this? What? Head on desk. Very casual for no reason. It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly, we should hear the accused's explanation. Or should I say, this brilliant scientist's explanation? Just when I found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument. Scientists... Very well, the defendant will testify again, provide us with a scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to hold.
Upon I will, my lord.
More testimony. The inconsistency explained.
To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data in my research. My hypothesis states that kinesis cannot transport metal, though. Hence, the metal weapon would have stayed put. In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Ryu isn't inconsistency at all.
Alright, we're gonna check something out. Metal. Glasses. Easily proven.
Mr. Ashman was a patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have a duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together.
Alright. We got this. So, the thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since a screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, dude, this judge is so slow. He's like, explain it to me like I'm 5. Okay, now explain it to me like I'm 4. All right, what does that mean again? All right, in English. Explain it in English. How about that? Its subsequent discovery on the stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. Oh man, my Coke Zero is fizzing. And therefore, this is such a good bit. I love bits like this. It's so good. And therefore, Professor Albert Harebrant could still have been the killer. My great hypothesis holds, you see. This guy is so dumb too. He's so triumphant in the face of him fucking himself over.
We had to make the case used to contain the subject from wood for that very reason.
I was not addressing you, witness. Professor Harebrain.
Yes?
Whose side are you on here?
I don't take sides, Mr. Ryu. No. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I'm a scientist, after all.
Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let's see how you cross-examine this testimony, my Nipponese friend.
Yes, fire away, Mr. Ryu.
I mean, we got this. We're gonna press on everything, but I think we got it. The inconsistency is that he did put transport metal in his glasses.
Hold it!
And yet your retort to my argument wasn't lacking in confidence in any way.
No scientist can find the truth without first finding self-belief. Those are the words of a certain scientist I hold in a very high esteem.
But you realize that disproving my argument puts you in a very precarious position, don't you?
No scientist should strive to protect himself more than he tries to protect the truth. More words of the same great scientist, you know.
Words that are causing me a lot of trouble. Who is this scientist?
I'm afraid I couldn't tell you, Mr. Ryu. But as soon as I remember the magnificent genius's name, you'll be the first to know.
It might be worth keeping the names of your idols to mind. You're wasting your breath, my learned friend. This scatterbrain even forgets my name at times. So Lord Van Zeeks really did have a friend once, but I didn't notice hell freezing over. Ha 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 ha.
Hold it!
Your hypothesis states it, so this isn't proven then?
No, of course not. It's merely a hypothesis, but a good one, based upon thousands of calculations. But it is widely known that metals can't be decomposed by electrolysis. Yes, of course, so I am right. My hypothesis is clearly correct.
What is it about incriminating himself that makes this man so happy?
It's the whole reason that the birdcage is made of wood, you see.
Sorry, the birdcage?
Yes, that's what I call the Shia Obtrusis cage in which Mr. Ashman was placed for the kinesis.
Look at those metal glasses. Oh, the jail cell in which the victim was detained. It does indeed seem to be made of timber of some sort. Thank you not to refer to it as an instrument of incarceration, your lordship. In short, any weapon lodged in the victim when he was beamed away by instantaneous kinesis would have been left behind on the stage if it was made of metal, correct?
Yes, that's it. Yes. It all fits perfectly with the mathematical model.
With the ultimate conclusion, then, is that the defendant alone had the opportunity to inflict this fatal injury on the victim, is it not?
Yeah.
Oh, indeed, sir. Someone beat me out of this nightmare. We're fine.
Hold it!
You seem to be pleased by that.
Yes, another again from my hypothesis holding true. But I sense some sarcasm, Mr. Ryu. Are you not pleased?
No.
I knew it. At the end of the day, I'm the one responsible for Mr. Asman losing his life. The advancement of science is no excuse, I know that.
No, you're quite right. Tell the court, did you have a close relationship with Mr. Asman?
Oh, well, no, not really. I mean, I'd only met him 2 or 3 times. We only discussed my hypothesis in the project and a research grant, of course.
We're doing fine. How did you come to know Mr. Asman in the first place?
A year ago, a small provincial science journal published a little paper about my work.
That's a scientific journal? Good gracious, I should need new spectacles.
I might have had an extraordinary hypothesis, great promise, but at the time, I had no money. I had to eat tiny little meals at a tiny little cafe and drink watered-down water out of a tiny little glass. But Mr. Asman read the paper and came to visit me in my tiny little laboratory.
Hilarious, everything's so tiny with him. And offered you money to help fund your work.
Exactly, that's exactly what happened. I handled the theoretical side of things, and Mr. Asman provided me with an engineer for the practical. And the 3 of us produced that fantastic machine together.
I'm curious about when the engineer's going to come up in the conversation, you know? When we're going to see him. The machine that you brought to the Great Exhibition to demonstrate.
We had to apply to the government for some sort of inspection to be allowed to exhibit, I think. I didn't understand all that side of things. Mr. Asman took care of all of it. He was a wonderful man, really. I owe him everything.
We have one more left? Yeah.
Hold it!
Ba-ba-na-na. When you say that you built the machine together, does that mean that you were involved in its construction?
Yes. Well, not exactly. I'm not good with the practical side of machines myself, so the physical construction was done by an engineer.
Little remains of your creation now, though. Following the explosion, repair will no doubt be impossible.
Yes, I realize that, but still, if someone were to gather all the broken parts, they could discover the secret of my hypothesis. Mr. Asman and I toiled over that machine for so long, we put our hearts and souls into it. I have to protect our work. So what's left of the machine must be kept safe. That's only fair, because what happened was an accident.
Alright. There we go. That's all the pressing that we can do. Now we're going to present. That's the extent of the testimony then. Thank goodness for that. I don't want him doing any more damage. He's already basically proven that he could have been the culprit. But it seems as though all he really cares about is defending his hypothesis. Still, I wonder, what if his hypothesis is just fundamentally flawed? Alright, here we go. Nope. So I think either of these are fine. I think this one's better because we do show inconsistency, right? Oh, we'll do this one. This has a metal weapon, too.
Objection!
Nailed it. Professor Harebrained, you say that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beaten by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made, is that right?
Yes, that's right. Spot on. Exactly correct.
In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Asman is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim.
What, metal? No. Metal can't. That's not. Metal? No.
We've already established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the stage. However, if your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome, it should also have predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles would be found in the same place. Yeah.
My hypothesis, my hypothesis!
Professor Harebrained, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly flawed. Got him. Got him. Order, order, order! Consul, what is the implication of this? If, on the day in question, the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than on the stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit.
But my hypothesis is sound. I proved it that day. The experiment was a success. The experiment was proof of all of my work. I could say something here in my capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society. Yes, sure, number 4, go ahead. In minute science, there's one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science. Why, wait, great Scott. Are you suggesting my science is suspect? It's just been disproved, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. I say the wreckage of that machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined. No, never. That machine is just to my entire hypothesis. It's protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. What the devil is that blasted act all about, huh? Who made up such a daft rule?
I don't like the way this seems to be going. What's the best way for me to help the professor? I guess we have to raise an objection if we want to change things.
Objection!
Professor Harebrained has yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes. But even so what? Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake experiment machine to display in public. He would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing.
Objection!
For the grant. For the grant. He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. For the research grant money, yeah.
The government was foolish enough to have deemed the man's ridiculous notion plausible. He and his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed. Conspirators?
What would be the value of such a grant? £10?
Yeah, no ordinary magnitude out, madam. £500 a year. You could have handsome establishments for years.
I can't do her voice at all. I don't know what that's going to be, really.
The Society's noticed an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently, and plenty of scientists are arguing with each other to get the larger slice of the funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive enough for murder, I assure you.
Interesting.
No. I haven't deceived anyone. That's all the government. My hypothesis is the scientists down. Please, you must believe me.
Objection!
No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success.
Yeah, Barack.
And therefore, the only person who could possibly have committed this murder is the accused. It's so funny how he's so much happy about, yeah.
Oh, Barack.
Where is this heading? I have no idea. My lord, if I may.
Yes, Lord Renzies.
Prosecution would like to summon new witnesses to the stand.
New witnesses? What would be the nature of their involvement?
They were spectators of the demonstration at the exhibition, who were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses?
Very well, the court grants the prosecution's request. I should very much like to hear from eyewitnesses to the incident.
Prosecution's stance is clear. This experiment was no P-word. The accused killed the financier victim there on the public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend. Oh, yes? It's time for you to make your own stance clear. There's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me?
We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witnesses to take the stand.
As you wish, my lord.
Good, in that case, court is adjourned for 20 minutes.
Fantastic. We're getting a to be continued? You love to see it. This is a wonderful place to stop. Next time we're going to engage with the new witnesses, do more cross-examination, maybe do a summation examination, who knows, but alright, trial part 1 is complete. And honestly, we're on top of things so far. I still have no idea what exactly happened, but we're on top of the steps to get there, right? Like, no strikes yet. We're doing okay. Yeah, pretty chill day today. Not sure where this mystery is going once again. I'm like 100% confident that the machine doesn't work and that there's some other crazy explanation, but I don't know what yet. And yeah, that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you take care of yourselves. Make sure you take care of others, and I will see you next time. Peace out.